This is a topic of discussion I see flying around, not only in my comment section, but pretty much everywhere on the internet. Pokémon is a long-running franchise, and in one way or another, there's bound to be a time where it ultimately fatigues and misses the mark on what past entries achieved. But in the case of Pokémon, did this truly happen? And if it did, just when exactly did it take place? It's a very opinionated topic, but I'm going to try my best to answer it anyway. Just when did the downfall of Pokémon really start? Well, this is a very obvious no. The only things these games did was evolve the unpolished gameplay of the originals, while adding a slew of extra content, and the almighty return of Kanto in the only games in the series to include 2 fully explorable regions. It's safe to say that the only thing these games started was the new standards that future Pokémon games should meet. The first truly big leap for Pokémon. These were the first games to offer a huge graphical overhaul to the series, considering the new system it was on, the GBA. A fully interwoven story involving the legendary Pokémon Groudon and Kyogre, game-specific teams like Team Magma and Aqua, and the introduction of the Battle Frontiers. I have no doubt in my mind that the series did not downfall here whatsoever. Sure, there are some divisive points to these games. 7.8 out of 10 too much water. But the positives far outweigh the negatives. And while not all of the Pokemon could be migrated to the games, it was 100% understandable considering it was on hardware that physically couldn't connect with the original Game Boy systems. These games get a pass from me. This is going to be divisive. The graphics got yet another overhaul, but I noticed a lot more issues in these games compared to past entries. The battle system felt a lot slower, progression of the story felt just as slow, and the Pokemon design started getting a bit, weird? The game still had charm, interesting characters, really fantastic music, and even a way to transfer your Pokemon from the GBA games into them, which was a genuinely great feature. At this point though, the formula definitely started feeling a bit stale. Saying this, these were the games that started the physical special split in the battles, so it did add quite a bit more strategy to the gameplay. But this was really only for the more hardcore of fans. I doubt any casual Pokemon players would have noticed this. It's due to this, and no real true innovations to the series, that I have to consider this game a somewhat dip in quality for the series, but was in no way the start of the downfall at all. I'm biased. I am so biased. But I believe these games picked the Pokemon series right up again. With the most focused story in the whole series, entire game including nothing but brand new Pokemon, new triple-long rotation battles, phenomenal music, and for the first time in series history, true sequels with Black and White 2, including new areas, entirely new story, and the World Championships, where you get to battle every single gym leader and champion from series past. These games pushed the boundaries of the franchise, the biggest boundaries since including 2 regions in my opinion. A shame, because at age 13, I heavily disliked these games for feeling too different to past titles, but now, it's the one thing I long for in the franchise. These games get an absolute pass from me, a new high for the Pokemon franchise in my eyes. And we're back again. Back to another dip. All of the amazing boundaries that Gen 5 set, throw that completely out of the window. The graphics were a huge step up, and is by far the biggest redeeming quality of X and Y. but everything else fell short to me. An incredibly subpar story with boring characters, less new Pokemon than we've ever received since Gen 2, and the post-game being so bare bones that it's honestly laughable. The transferring of Pokemon from the DS games even needed a separate paid service with Pokemon Bank, which felt really money hungry. The introduction of Mega Evolution was a pretty cool one, and was the one thing that truly blew my mind when it was first revealed. These games aren't bad by any means, but I definitely see how short they fell of the standards set by past games, especially Black and White. We didn't even get a third version this time. Weird. The biggest dip in the franchise so far during 2013, but is the dip big enough to consider it the downfall of the franchise? I don't think so, but I can definitely see how that could be debated. These are the games I see most people give crap on, and I just couldn't disagree more with these statements. Sure, the first couple of hours were incredibly slow, and aren't something that I can defend, but once you get past that, you can see all of the innovations they try to incorporate into these games. Battles now include your trainers, which definitely helps with immersion. The story is the best we've gotten since Black and White. The absence of gyms, the very first building of the Pokemon League, you actually get to become the champion and challenge others who try and take your place in the post-game. It's actually wild. While Ultra Sun and Moon weren't nearly as good as Black and White 2, they at least follow the traditions of past third versions, with extra story sequences and more post-game content, which I thought were neat additions, but I still don't fully excuse it considering the standards they set so long ago. Still, the amount of change present in these games and clear passion to offer something new to the franchise definitely refrains me from considering these games anywhere near to a downfall. I think these games are up there with the very best Pokemon games. Take that as you will, but I didn't see laziness or fatigue with these games. We finally arrived at Sword and Shield. The games aren't out, so we can't entirely judge here, but is this where the downfall begins? I think the mindset of the developers is what could lead to the downfall for sure. They're not addressing the issues, they're not making significant improvements to the formula, they've shown incompetence with many aspects including graphics and national decks. So is it truly fair to say that this is where the downfall starts? While I wish I could say yes, as I am convinced this is where it starts, it is just a tad too early to judge at this point. I can judge that there are many issues with the product, but I can't comment on the games entirely just yet. If the issues continue and no improvements are made whatsoever, then I'll safely say that this is the start of the downfall. But we just need to wait a while longer for that. From my gatherings, there's never truly been a great downfall of Pokemon. Yet. It's more like a wave with its ups and downs. While the games have absolutely had their dips, none of them have gotten so low as to consider them bad, or even subpar. But what people consider a downfall is entirely subjective. So this is just my view on the situation. Please, Sword and Shield, don't let us down. Not this time.